In this video, we're going to look at working out the area of a space, which is length multiplied by breadth. And today I'm going to use my garden as an example. Okay, so what with being stuck indoors and not being able to get out and about or whatever, I thought I'd do a little bit of gardening. My lawn is not looking the healthiest, and DIY stores are closed, so the only thing I could get my hands on at the moment was a lawn feed in my local supermarket. So I picked this up the other day. After cut, all in one lawn feed, weed and moss killer program. So I'm going to use a few math skills in having a look at what I should do here in treating my lawn. Instructions for use. It says when to use. For use on established lawns when grass, moss and weeds are actively growing. Apply for the first time in spring. Wait at least 6 weeks for a second application, etc., etc. You can pause on that there if you want to look at the instructions yourself. But the thing I want to have a look at here is step 2, how to use. It is good practice to wear gloves when using the product, although it is not a requirement. And here we have a look at some maths, the maths bit that I'm going to use. This pack treats 100 meters squared. That's what that M stands for there. Metre is a unit of measurement, and the little small 2, the squared 2, 100 meters squared, that's what that means. It's the area that this box would cover. So this pack treats 100 meters squared, equivalent, which is equivalent to 10 car parking spaces. Now my garden is quite small, so it certainly isn't equivalent to 10 car parking spaces. And there it kind of gives the equivalent of what a parking space would be equal to, which would be 2 by 5 meters, which is 10 meters squared. It says application, mark out areas to be treated, apply evenly at 32 G, which is 32 grams per meter squared, over the marked area by hand or wheeled spreader. So what I have to do is measure the area of my garden. How I do that is I measure the length of the garden and the breadth or the width of the garden. So I take 2 measurements, I multiply them by each other, get the area, and then see how much of this feed I need to use. Because I can't use the whole lot, it's for a larger area, so I need to reduce the amount of feed that I use. So we'll do that and see how we get on. Okay, so first we will measure the length, I suppose. Okay, so let's get our measuring tape. You can see how bad the grass is there. It needs to be reseeded as well, but sure we'll try this. Okay. So measuring the length, we have worked it out to be 450 centimeters. And then we go to the other side of the garden and we've measured the width or breadth, in other words breadth is the same thing as width, to be 460 centimeters. So what I'm going to do now is multiply those two figures by each other, 450 multiplied by 460, to give me the area of my garden approximately. Here I'm dealing with the length of my garden as being 450 centimeters, the width as being 460, width being breadth again. So what I want to do though, because here it's talking about this box of lawn feed is treating 100 meters squared, so we're dealing with meters, so I need to convert those centimeters into meters. So what I know is that in 1 meter there is 100 centimeters. So what I do is I divide my 2 amounts up here by 100 because I want to turn them into meters. Okay, it makes it easier that way. So 450 divided by 100, literally what you can do in that instance is you bring your decimal point when you're dividing by 100 2 places over to the left, so it becomes 4.5 meters. Likewise with my next measurement, 460 centimeters, your decimal point is always at the end of a number unless there is one shown, so you move it 2 places to the left when you're dividing by 100 and it becomes 4.6 meters. So to get area what did I want to do again? I want to multiply length by breadth. So 4.5 meters multiplied by 4.6 meters. Put my line underneath. 6 times 5, ignore the decimal points for a moment, okay? 6 times 5 is 30. Put down my 0, put my 3 there. 6 times 4, go across this way. 6 fours is 24, plus your 3, 27. Cross off my 3 so I don't get confused later. When you're multiplying, remember, by the next digit in a long multiplication, put down your 0 there to represent your multiplying by tens. You go 4 times 5, you go across this way. 4 times 5, 20. 4 times 4, 16, plus your 2, 18. Cross off your 2. Now add the two of them together. 0 plus 0, 0. 0 plus 7, 7. 8 plus 2 is 10. Put down your 0, carry your 1. And 1 plus 1 is 2. So again, when you're multiplying by numbers that have decimal places, so in this instance we have one decimal place there and another one there, so there's 2 decimal places and the 2 numbers that I'm multiplying. So in your answer you go in 2 places from the right again, you count in 1, 2, so there's going to be 2 decimal places and you put your decimal point there. So the answer to the area of my garden when I multiply the length by the breadth is 20.7 meters. And then, having worked out the area of my garden to be 20.7 meters squared, I now have to work out how much of the actual box to use, because again, this amount is for a larger garden, 100 meters squared, or I think they say 10 car park spaces, which my garden isn't. So in that instance, I know that, you know, even if I rounded off my garden to be 20 meters squared, it's probably going to be, you know, it would go 5 times into 100 meters squared. So therefore I'll use about 1/5 of the box. But they did tell us how many grams to use per meter squared. So what I can do is just multiply the grams that I need per meter squared of my garden. Okay, so taking those two amounts, 20.7 meters squared and the amount of grams of the feed to be used per meter squared, which is 32 grams. Write them out like that, and you're going to multiply again, working from the right. So you have 2 times 7 is 14, put down your 4, carry your 1. 2 times 0 is 0, add your 1, cross it out. 2 times 2 is 4, so therefore that's the 2 times 207 there, which turns out to be 414. Moving down onto my second line of my long multiplication, put in my 0 to start and go across this way. So 3 times 7 is 21. Put down my 1, write my 2 there. 3 times 0 is 0, plus my 2 is 2, and 3 times 2 is 6. So 6,210. Put my line underneath and add those two amounts together. 0 plus 4 is 4. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. And then carry down my 6 here because 6 is added to nothing, so just write 6. So 6,624. Now again, as earlier when I was looking at when I'm multiplying by numbers with decimal points in them, if I look at my two numbers here, I only have 1 decimal point between the two numbers. So I go down to my answer and I just put 1 decimal place in there. So my answer is 662.4 grams. So I'll measure that out and try and spread it appropriately, and hopefully it works. Thanks for listening. Thank you. Bye.